Fitch Ratings indicates global oil and gas industry's performance in 2024 will remain broadly in line with that in 2023, but stronger than mid-cycle levels. Oil prices should remain high and broadly stable year on year due to OPEC's Plus's curtailments amid geopolitical influences and slowing U.S. crude production. However, demand growth will slow and spare capacity, mostly represented by OPEC, should be sufficient to absorb potential shocks. Strong cash flows, low leverage companies still continue to report strong earnings in 2024 on the back of benign prices and continued cost control. Most companies will maintain or decrease capital expenditure, with only around 25% of companies increasing capex by more than 10%. Also, only around 20% of companies will increase dividends by more than 10%, with the rest either keeping dividends stable or decreasing them. Will African nations benefit from this? Now, to help link all these, I have joining me NJ Ayuk, Executive Chairman, Africa Energy Chamber. He joins us from Johannesburg, South Africa. Thank you so much for joining us at this time, NJ.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so pricing is a major concern of the oil industry in 2023, NJ. External geopolitical tensions also impacted this in 2023. Now, will anything be different in 2024? Do you think so?
No, it's not going to be different. What you're going to see is that the market is going to stay stable. Demand continues to grow as much as we saw in 2023. China and India are going to really influence a lot of the demand. But production, as you rightfully said in your opening, in the U.S., it has been declining. As much as Africa is also declining, we're seeing new projects coming on steam that is really going to increase also demand and also output. We think geopolitical issues, of course, definitely have an impact on oil price and what you're going to see, especially when it comes to natural gas. We're still keeping an eye on the war in Ukraine and right now the war in the Gaza, but we don't see a big shift on oil prices in 2024. We actually see more growth, as you are seeing a big movement around new projects, but also we are not meeting demand as we need to be meeting, given the big decline you see in North America.
All right, so you just said that we're not meeting demand as we're supposed to, and that, we don't actually, or you don't see a big shift in 2024, just like 2023. But production quota, if you'd agree with me, has been a tipping point of decisions, and this actually led, top the exit of Angola from OPEC. Now, could this price control cause further discord? And for the sake of our viewers, what could happen if not price control, or if the price control doesn't exist?
Well, we shouldn't be talking about price control. We should be looking at inventories. If you look at inventories across North America and even Asia, then that answers the question. I don't think the issues around Angola is really that of a pricing. Angola's exit from OPEC came around baseline. We just got to be honest, around Africa, we've not been meeting our OPEC baselines. Nigeria had a baseline that was high, wasn't meeting that. Congo had a baseline that was high, wasn't meeting that. Same with Angola. So there is nobody saying do not produce, but if you cannot produce, you should shift to others that have the ability to produce. What does that mean for Africa? That means that we need to be giving out contracts. We need to be signing deals. We need to be encouraging business to move forward. We need to be getting companies to move and invest and cutting back on red tape and bureaucracy and creating an enabling environment. Then we will see that. So you are going to see more movement in the oil markets. What are you going to see around OPEC? There's going to be more cuts, but sometimes the cuts are not substantial enough to really prop up prices to get us to those big numbers that African countries like Nigeria would like to see, given their heavy dependence on oil as part of their budgets. But we also have to come to a position where we need to look within Africa and look at a massive market of 1.4 billion people that is underutilized, underserved, and not being able to see capacity or demand, African demand being met. Don't forget that with our natural gas production, we still have 600 million people without access to electricity, 900 without access to clean cooking. So we need to produce more LPG. We need to refine that. Dancote is trying to do a good job in Nigeria, but across Africa, we're still refining in Europe and bringing it right back. So prices are going to be there, but there's also going to be a big discussion around OPEC on how to go forward, especially with Africa.
Quite interesting, NJ. Now, some African countries have actually been through it in 2023, especially when it comes to security challenges, haven't been an impediment to many nations' oil wealth improvement. The likes of Nigeria and Mozambique, those are examples that I can actually give right now. Do you see improvement with these nations and others in 2024?
Yes, I do. I do see improvement with security challenges. Mozambique, I just came from Mozambique yesterday. They met with some of the authorities there. They are working towards first quarter resumption of the Cabo Delgado project, big $20 billion capital expenditure that's going to go into that country. That country will go from being from zero to the third largest producer of natural gas in the world. Nigeria, you've already seen some moves from the federal government and NNPC to stamp crude oil theft, and those steps need to be ramped up and move faster because it is hurting investor confidence. It's also hurting the production outlook that you would have to see where they're targeting themselves. Libya, where I'm supposed to be there next week, is also having some big moves in cutting down some of the security challenges on a track where they're trying to move to producing 2 million barrels of crude oil by the end of this year. So that you could see big movements on that, but we cannot rest on our laurels. We got to go fast, and we got to go big, and we got to go now, or we got to go home. It's a warning shot for Africa.
We have to go home indeed. But just before I let you go, NJ, divestments and local firms are taking up, sold assets that were accrued in 2023. Now, would you say that IOCs will return to Africa in 2024?
Yes, IOCs are going to return to Africa in 2024. We already seen Murphy Energy out of Arkansas and in the United States moving into Cote d'Ivoire. We've seen big movements with exploration campaigns in Namibia, where everybody thought was an oil man's death graveyard. Namibia has seen big discoveries with Total Energies and Shell. We've seen international independence like Afentra going into Angola. We've seen a lot of that, but also we need to be thinking about this differently. Where are the African independents? It can be IOCs divesting to other international independents and national oil companies. We have to get the African independents like the Owandos and the Seplats and the ITOs and the Shorelines and other independents across Africa to be able to step up their game and take on these assets and manage them. Onshore Africa is going to be really big when you look at the potential of producing natural gas, ramping up crude oil production, whether it is in the Sudan or South Sudan. But the African independence, it's time for us to pay attention to them. It's maybe we should consider saying when an IOC is diversing out of Africa, if an international independent comes in, we should consider maybe a 15 to 20% Africa content, ensuring that African independents are part of that joint venture, so that Africans have to be part of this play and can no longer be the ones sitting in the back room. That is something that the chamber is going to push this year. We can't just continue to boost NNPC, SNPC, and the big national oil companies. They are good, but they have not really done an amazing job in really ramping up productions. We need to let young independents that are hungry, African, and that want to go for the juggler. That's what 2024 will be about.
All right, well, thank you so much, NJ Ayuk, for joining me at this time to discuss this. We appreciate you, and compliments of the season.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.